Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for sharing your time with me. We all have our moods and I'm having one lately. So today's topic is just an introduction to a topic which we may or may not continue with. But first, a short word about the absolute ignorance and stupidity of Madam Meghan Markle. So I hear Meghan may be sued by one of her fans after she used Meghan's recipe for bath bombs and her skin was burnt. Now, to my regular viewers, you will remember that I warned everybody not to buy any of Meghan's products until or unless the ingredients are listed on the packaging. And as far as I could see, the only product with ingredients listed is the cookie mix. Okay, now I know the bath bomb was not a product, but the same principle applies. All Meghan needed to do was to Google the effect of the ingredients on the skin, and she would have found that certain people are sensitive to some of the ingredients, and then all she needed to do was say or tell people not to use it if you have an open wound, or if you are diabetic, have a sensitive skin, blah, blah, blah. That is all. But she is either too lazy or she just does not care. Anyway, we'll see where this case goes, what happens. We will just have to wait and see. Today I want to do an introduction on someone in the royal family I have not spoken about before, at least not much. But lately I've been reading some books, scanning the books really. I'll decide later which one I want to read. I've also suddenly noticed some old articles, so in a way I feel almost fated to talk about Queen Consort Camilla for a change. You see, we can abbreviate the beginning of the love-hate relationship between Camilla and the royal family like this. Princess Anne dated Andrew Parker Bowles. Then Camilla married him, and almost as soon as she got married, she resumed her relationship with Anne's brother Charles. Yes, we could do it that way, but it was a little more complicated than that. Princess Anne and Andrew Parker Bowles dated for some time starting in June 1970. However, Andrew was Catholic, and at the time the law has not yet changed, and if the relationship was to go any further, Anne would have to likely give up her title and or would definitely have been taken out of the line of succession. Now, I'm not saying that is why the relationship did not last, because as we all know, Anne is indeed very stubborn, and if she really wanted to do something, she would have. By all accounts, the romance fizzled out and the two of them remained friends. Due to their mutual love of horses and racing, a sincere mutual interest, Andrew Parker Bowles even became Anne's daughter Zara's godfather. I mean, that is all a little strange, but it is indeed true. Anne, of course, was married to Mark Phillips between 1973 and 1992, and to Timothy Lawrence in 1992, and of course, they are still married. Andrew married Camilla in 1973, and they divorced in 1995. Camilla and Charles got married in 2005. A little convoluted, don't you think? Anyway, although there's a slight discrepancy about when Camilla and Charles met the official timeline starts in 1970. Now, the reason why no one really believes the 1970 story is because the official narrative is that Charles was 22 and Camilla 23 when they met. Yet in 1970, Charles turned 21. Penny Jr.'s biographies state that they were introduced in 1971 by Lucia Santa Cruz at her flat. The other story is that they met in 1970 at polo when Camilla was admiring Charles's polo pony. And then lastly, there's the theory that neither of these stories are true and that they met long before that, more like 1968 to 1969. And the reason for this is that neither of these stories coincides with when Charles joined the Navy, because the relationship fizzled out after Charles joined the Navy in 1971, and that only happened after he completed a history degree from the University of Cambridge. It is said that a month, only 1 month, and that is why I said, we're calling it fizzled out, but it actually just bombed out. Okay, so only 1 month after Charles left on a 6-month tour for the Navy in 1973, one single month after he left, Camilla announced her engagement to Andrew Parker Bowles. Eish, what a very tight and loyal girlfriend she was. Anyway, it was said that Camilla was holding a torch for Andrew and that they had an on-off affair. So she was in actual fact two-timing Charles and two-timing Andrew. There's no other way because the relationships did in fact overlap. Okay, so in 1977, Charles meets Diana while dating her sister Sarah, but by 1977, Charles and Camilla are once again involved. Others say they did not resume their romantic relationship until 1979. Whatever or whenever does not really matter, because in 1980 Charles was dating Anna Wallace, whom he twice asked to marry him, and twice she turned him down. And why? Well, mainly because she discovered his so-called obsession with Camilla. The Queen Mother's 80th birthday was the last straw, when Charles took Anna to the party but spent almost the entire night dancing with Camilla and almost completely ignored Anna. Regardless of his pleadings and assurances, Anna Wallace felt humiliated and the short romance ended. Note that in 1980, Camilla was still married. Charles, however, started dating Diana, and the rest is history. Or is it? Well, my dears, not quite. In July 1980, both Charles and Diana were invited to stay at a friend, Philip Dupin's family home in Sussex, a setup, in my opinion. Diana gets into a conversation with Charles about his uncle, Lord Mountbatten's death, and in Diana's words, the next minute he leapt on me, practically. In 1981, Charles proposes to Diana at Windsor Castle. In March 1981, Charles flies to Australia for 5 weeks and Diana is spotted crying at the airport. And many people, including the newspapers, assumed it was because she was sad. But later it transpired that he took a phone call from Camilla minutes before he left. In July 1981, shortly before the wedding, Diana expressed doubt about going through with the wedding, especially after she discovered a gift, a bracelet Charles had made for Camilla. Diana was upset and really wanted to call it off, but her sisters told her that it was too late to do so, and on the 29th of July 1981, she walked down the aisle. In 1982, Prince William was born, and in 1984, they had Harry. In 1986, Charles confessed to Jonathan Dimbleby that he had resumed his affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, allegedly only after his marriage to Diana broke down completely. In 1986, Diana allegedly also started an affair with James Hewitt. In 1992, John Major announced the separation. The divorce was finalized in 1996. Remember, Andrew Parker Bowles and Camilla divorced in 1995. Well, their divorce was finalized on the 3rd of March 1995, and that is likely why Charles accepted Diana's demands and suddenly was in a hurry to divorce Diana. Now, the biggest lie around Charles and Camilla's relationship is that they stopped seeing each other between July 1981 and 1986. It is a total lie. Of course, there are many stories, true or false, but what is true and provable was that Charles and Camilla ran in the same circles, and he played polo, and she was also part of that horsey polo set. Provable is that shortly after William's birth, Charles played in a polo match, which Diana did not attend, obviously, but Camilla certainly did. During the marriage, at some point, Camilla asked Diana whether she was going to join the Beaufort hunt. Diana said no, not knowing that Camilla and Charles were both members of the hunt. Charles's courtiers and other sycophants have tried and to an extent succeeded in convincing some people that he barely saw Camilla between 1981 and 1986, which is indeed not true at all. There were plenty of opportunities for trysts between the two, and indeed there were some. Remember Tampon Gate? In 1989, a telephone conversation between Charles and Camilla. Remember that? It only came out in, I think, 1992, 1993, but it was a conversation dating back to 1989. Remember that both, at the time, in 1989, were still married. Diana also famously confronted Camilla about the affair in 1989, at which time Camilla was indeed very dismissive of Diana, and that came as a first-hand account from Diana's bodyguard. Anyway, things went the way it went, particularly after Diana's death. Charles's family were the hardest to convince to accept the relationship. The Queen felt that their relationship was damaging the monarchy. Prince Philip once wrote to Diana and said that he could not believe Charles leaving Diana for that woman. It is also said that William and Harry both begged their father not to marry Camilla, but regardless of it all, Charles and Camilla married in 2005. Since their wedding, there had been many more stories and gossip, but while all of that was going on, there was a lot done to create a different image for Camilla. See, Harry is a liar and a very, very spiteful bloke, but not everything he said was a lie. Charles had hired the best people money could buy to restore Camilla's image, and the PR blitz actually started even before the wedding. There was also a lot of unhappiness by staff at Clarence House and Kensington Palace, but we'll talk about that next time. Okay, guys and girls, I'll see you soon. So until then, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.